Hello everyone, welcome to We Love Soaps TV. I'm Roger Newcomb. Today I'm going to play a very special interview I did recently with Nicholas Rodriguez, who plays Nick on One Life to Live.
So Nicholas, can you tell me a little about your background, where you grew up?
Sure, I grew up in Austin, Texas. Born and raised, like whole family's from Austin, Texas. Both my parents are from there. Went to college there, went to grad school there, and then moved up here.
So Austin has one of the best music scenes in the country. Did
Totally.
that contribute to you getting into music?
Definitely indirectly. My grandmother was, an elementary school music teacher, and, we always just kind of had music in the house. Like my dad was in a rock and roll band off and on, and, for fun, and everybody kind of sang. So it was just, and we sang at church, so it just kind of was always around. And definitely with Austin, we had great things coming through, like all different types, from jazz to Willie Nelson. There was always something going around. So Stevie Ray Vaughan. So, it definitely, I think, led to my wide berth of types of music that I like.
So you probably were singing from birth, or?
Yeah, pretty much. It just kind of started happening. I definitely remember singing in the church choir when I was a little kid, and being the youngest person in the church choir, but definitely didn't know I didn't start pursuing it until like high school. So, but it was always something I liked to do for fun. So, yeah.
So in high school, that's the point you decided I want to pursue this as a career?
Yeah, it started out in high school. My dad was the football coach at my high school, and I had to catch a ride with him to school. So we got there super early because they had football practice before school, and they had the show choir met before school, so it was a way to kill time, basically before school started, and just instantly liked it and had a great teacher. And then one thing led to another, and I was like, oh, I'm kind of good at this, and people are reacting to it. So then from there, by senior year, I was like, definitely this is what I'm doing. I'm going to be a singer.
So, and you didn't play football?
I didn't. No, I think I was one of the few. I didn't play it in high school. I played it in junior high, but not in high school.
What position?
I was a tailback in junior high.
What did your dad say? Did he want you to be like?
We played every single sport growing. We just went from season to season, from football to basketball to baseball. We ran track, played tennis, and then when something wasn't in season, I took gymnastics and karate, and my little brother did the same thing. So we just kind of, so as long as my dad, as long as we were doing something and staying active, he pretty much, let us pick the ones that we were good at. I wasn't particularly good at football. I have a tendency to talk back, and coaches don't particularly like that in football. So my dad was like pleased for me to be like in the individual sports like tennis or basketball, where it was too fast for me to argue, so.
Soaps and football are my two favorite things.
Oh, really?
So maybe I should interview your dad next.
Yeah, okay, go for it.
Still coaching?
He is. He coaches still in Austin, Texas, yeah.
So Austin, Texas, University of Texas.
Uh-huh.
Football is like, isn't it like
paramount?
The music scene is big there, but
yeah.
Football is like the thing, right?
Yeah, it's totally Friday Night Lights. That's shot in my hometown. Being a coach's kid, I always grew up, even from elementary school when he was coaching, you would go to the high school football games. So then, of course, when you're in high school, you go to the high school football games, and then college, you go to the Texas games. You just don't really miss it. So.
Friday Night Lights is my favorite show, actually. I would love to see you on that. That would be.
Yeah, it would be fun. It would be fun. Especially since it shoots in my hometown. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So you went to the University of Texas.
I did.
What was your major?
I was a music major. Yeah.
Did you do acting in high school, or was it mostly singing?
I did. I was in the drama group in high school, and that's where definitely I got the bug. I had the most amazing teacher, Betsy. Actually, she was just up here a couple of weeks ago and saw me in the show I was doing here. And we stay in touch, And then from there, I started branching out. Towards the senior year, I got the opportunity to do one of the local professional plays. They needed a 17-year-old kid, and I happened to be a 17-year-old kid. And got to meet people that were doing it in the community, both, for fun and professionally. And, met some New York actors and thought, oh, this is incredible and a good time. So from then, it just kind of took off. And even in college, when I was majoring in music and classical voice, I still found time to, do plays in the community, to work on those chops too.
Right.
But I didn't study acting in college. I mean, other than what's associated with being an opera major, I mean, they're two totally different things. So.
Did you ever have a Southern accent?
I did. And after 2 beers, watch it, it'll come out.
Me too.
Well, you have one right now. I'm assuming you haven't had 2 beers at 10:30 in the morning, but you are from Tennessee, so who knows?
Yes, and I'm also married to my sister. So at what point did you move to New York?
I moved here just about this time, actually, September 5th, 2001. So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Right before 9/11.
Right before, like the week before.
Did that make you want to go back?
No, honestly, it's pretty, it's interesting to talk about because it was such an intense time, but it's something that definitely cemented me as part of the fabric of being here and being part of the community. And I think it's hard for people that are outside of New York to really fully understand the sense of community that happened here, and because of, just shortly after I got one of my first kind of big breaks, they lost an actor. I got a call from Harrisburg Opera. They were starting rehearsals on the 17th to do Candide, and one of their actors dropped out because he didn't want to travel and leave his family because of September 11th. So the conductor knew me, called me. I'd worked with him in grad school, and I kind of got my first job and my first agent all because of that. So, it definitely cemented me as part of the fabric here.
Now, you've done tons of shows, but your Broadway debut was as Tarzan?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Oh, it was intense. Especially to work for Disney, which is such a great machine, and they take such great care of their people, and there's such vision. I wasn't part of the original company, so I had the benefit of watching the show, getting called to audition, seeing the show, saying, great, I'd love to do that, and then getting the part. So I actually got to audition on the stage, which is huge. For your first Broadway show, it doesn't always happen that way. And I'll never forget the first time I went on as Tarzan. I did the show. It's just like doing any other show, Didn't really think about it being on Broadway, per se, just working with great actors and trying to get through it because it was my first time. Until I remember running out from the wings and rounding the corner to take my bow, which is the last bow. You meet Jane in the middle and you run down and you're Tarzan, and then all of a sudden you're like, holy cow, I just played the lead in a Broadway show. And I remember telling my dad, trying to explain to him, in football terms, there's X number of, starting quarterbacks in the NFL. And right now, at any given time, there's 13 or 14 leading men on Broadway. And tonight, I was one of them, So it was the way I, equated it, It was kind of the pinnacle of what I had dreamed to do, so.
What did your parents say about you wanted to pursue this entertainment career, you moved to New York?
100% supportive. 100%. There's nothing more I can say. I think at one point in college, I did put myself through college. I worked 2 or 3 jobs to pay for it. So they pretty much said, hey, you're doing it, so do what you want. And I think around freshman or sophomore, no, definitely freshman year, they said, do you think you should have something to fall back on? And I said, no, because if I have something to fall back on, chances are I'll fall back. But if this is what I do, I'll just do it. And they said, okay, great. Then be good at it. That's pretty much all they said. So
you have a huge list of theater credits, including 10 Commandments with Val Kilmer.
Yep.
And some guy named Adam Lambert.
Who?
I think was Adam Lambert.
Yeah.
But what's been your most memorable theater experience of them all?
Oh gosh, I don't know. They all have such specific memories, so it's really hard to say what's the most memorable. There's some that I'm just particular performances. Obviously 10 Commandments is chock full of stories and what an interesting time in my life, and to get to work with those people and the way it happened, but it wasn't necessarily a critical success, So I think looking back, I tend to remember the ones that you walked off that stage and you thought, wow, I did that, Like Jesus Christ Superstar and that I did in Boston was one of those for me. Just getting to work with a really great director and getting to play Jesus again was really cool experience, and the audience reaction and the way people responded to it was really wonderful. Playing Che and Evita was a thrill. Playing Claude and Hair in Paris. It was like I'm in Paris doing Hair. So I've had some really, they're all special in their own own way. Some were successful critically and some were not, but they still, you know, learned something.
Did you ever think of going on American Idol yourself?
You know, as much as I respect it, and I think it's a really cool phenomenon that's happened, I think when it initially happened, when people would say, you should do this, you should do that, and it was the no-brainer because I was too old. At that point, they had an age cutoff. And then after a certain point, I was like, I don't want to wait in line. You know, it really kind of, and it's just not really, you know, I would see the comments that other people would get, you know, the more pop-oriented stuff. It's just not really, it's not really where my soul lives. As much as I like watching it and you know, and think there's some incredibly talented people, I don't think that's the way for me to make my path, is as incredible as it is. So it never really had a draw to me that way. Like, ooh, I could do that. It wasn't really what I come from, you know, so where my soul lies.
Prior to One Life to Live, had you done any television? Or?
I hadn't. This is the first, yeah.
Okay. How did the role of Nick come about on One Life to Live?
For me?
Yeah.
You know, I don't really know. I mean, I auditioned for it, of course. My first time auditioning for One Life was, you know, almost at this point, about 9 months ago or so, I was auditioning for the role of Skylar. It was the first time I had auditioned for One Life. And I had just finished this thing called the ABC Diversity Showcase, which is an amazing program that ABC does. And they brought me in to audition for Skylar, and you know, I went through the screening, and then went to the producer session toward the end, and that's where I met Frank Valentini. And oddly enough, Brett Claywell was there, and Scott, and I think Crystal was having her screen test then too. So it was kind of a big day. I didn't get the part, needless to say, and the only thing I heard was that, you know, from my agents, I think, was that I was too old, but that they liked me, and, you know, whatever. So then down the line, the next time I come to audition for them was for the role of Griffin. This was back in early June. And my agent sent me the breakdown, and it was Caucasian, was the very first word, confident, well-built, you know, successful, blah, blah, blah. And so I thought, okay, well, why am I going in for this? I'm, you know, clearly not Caucasian. But I go in, and then I get called to the producer session with Frank and Ron, and standing out there in the lobby with, you know, a half dozen blonde hair, blue-eyed, you know, Adonis types. And I thought, great, what am I, you know, I have nothing to lose, so I'll just go in here and do my thing. And sure enough, I mean, I'm not even off the train getting home, and they called me and they said they want you to do this, they want you to play Griffin. So, you know, I go to pick up my scripts for the first few episodes, and it's Griffin and Kyle and whatnot. And then I get a phone call the night before, oh, we decided to change the name, and his name's going to be Nick. So
I guess you just look like a Nick.
I guess so. You know, I didn't know. I was hanging out with Ron, our head writer, the other day, and he said, I asked him about it, and he said, I don't know. He's like, you just didn't look like a Nick. I didn't look like a Griffin, and, you know, he's like, I just like the name Nick, so.
What does a Griffin look like?
I don't know. Maybe more waspy, you know. So it was interesting.
Yeah.
And then for the longest time, I thought, oh, how cool. You know, they gave me this role, so clearly they see me as this Caucasian. And then by the third or fourth episode, I got a last name. And it clearly was not Caucasian, so it was very funny.
For somebody who hasn't seen the part, how would you describe the character of Nick?
Well, he's really evolved from what you've seen so far, but as opposed to Kyle and Fit, Nick is incredibly grounded. He's incredibly focused. He's a driven person. He knows what he wants. He is incredibly compassionate, you know. So especially in this Kyle and Oliver relationship that people are already familiar with, he comes in as a new entity that people already know is a gay man, a confident, out, well-spoken gay man, who starts dating Kyle. But along with that, he's compassionate towards Oliver and his struggles with coming out and dealing with that, you know. So it's exciting.
It's actually refreshing to see an out gay man on a soap who, I mean, the coming out stories are great, but it's nice to kind of bypass that and you have somebody who's comfortable with themselves.
Yeah.
To see that on screen, so it's nice to see.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I don't remember that being part of when they auditioned. There was nothing to say that, oh, we're looking for a gay character. You know, it wasn't anywhere in the job description. You know, so it's kind of refreshing that they have foresight like that Ron and Frank just kind of go for the person. I really like that.
Right. You talked about being an out gay man in interviews.
I have. Yeah.
do you feel a sense of responsibility to tell the story in a certain way, or?
Oh, definitely. I mean, look, I always feel the sense of responsibility to tell a story. I mean, I think that's like the number one burden as an actor, and blessing, is that you're honored with these roles to play, and you have to do them to the best of your ability. With this one in particular, being so topical, of course, and of course you want to honor the people whose lives you're directly affecting and those who down the line you may affect, especially young teenagers that are seeing this and for the first time they're saying, I'm not somebody who's struggling with it on camera. So far I'm not a bad guy who happens to be, I'm just a guy, and I'm successful, I teach at the high school, I do all these things. So it's important to me, that it come across well and that it's a positive thing.
Right. A few years ago, the thought of having any out gay actors on a soap, it seems so foreign.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but in 2009 there are now several.
Right.
All of a sudden, and I think that's amazing visibility.
Right. And it's nice, it's definitely a great feeling not being a novelty. It definitely, and I think coming from the theater world, just being able to walk in and do the work, and Brett and Scott and I talk about this all the time, that the most important thing to us is that it looks honest. It never looks contrived. We're real people having real emotions, that it's the same if I was playing a scene with a woman or, if they were, it's the same, We're going on a date. We're doing this. We're having this argument. The same struggles that everybody else has. So.
Speaking of looking honest, on your first day on set, I think it was your second day on air, you had to completely strip down, which it was both nice to see and also very funny. I mean, I don't know if it was supposed to be funny, but it was very funny. How was that? What was that like, though, to have to do that first day?
The whole thing was a mix of emotions for me. Obviously, on so many levels, it was my first day at work. I wanted to make a good impression. My first day on television, so I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was trying to listen and fake it, And, of course, being naked. And any of us are self-conscious about our bodies. No matter how much you work out, you always want to, it's out there in celluloid. You want it, to be good. But the interesting thing about that is that we didn't particularly rehearse it. And nobody ever discussed it with me, or it wasn't in the script really. I mean, it said that I was getting undressed, but no, as far as how far to go, it didn't really say. So when wardrobe brought me underwear options, I thought, oh, wait, are they bringing me underwear options because they're expecting to see? So I just kind of had to figure it out, and we were moving so fast, and it was a matter of timing it. Like normally in a play, you would rehearse that within an inch of its life, to get it right. This is the line. This is where I want to look. This is when I take off my shirt. This is when I take off my underwear. But we just didn't really have that luxury. So I just looked at Scott and I was like, "Hey, you mind if I just go for this?" And he's like, "Yeah, just go for it," And somebody threw me a towel and said, "This is what you're going to end up in." And I thought, "Okay, great, here we go." So I didn't really have time to be nervous about it because I just had to do it until we stopped. And they're like, "That was great. We want to do it again and get it from this angle and get it from that angle." And then I'm standing there, without any clothes on, and somebody runs over to bring me a robe. So that's when I got nervous, is when I had to get redressed to do it again and to be like, "Oh shit, I got to do it again?" So.
Well, yeah. Speaking for all your fans who would like to see all of the angles.
Well, you just might. Actually, coming up there might be some more. So.
Had you ever watched soaps before, growing up, or?
I think I definitely remember like when I was a little kid and staying with my grandmother in the summers, and she would watch All My Children. So I remember having an awareness of it. And then in the summer, when I was probably in junior high, and I was old enough to babysit my little brother, I think like Young and the Restless would come on, and it was easy to get sucked into. But recently, I hadn't been watching them just because I'm not particularly home during the daytime, and I don't have DVR, but I have an awareness of them. So yeah.
The Young and the Restless has a Hispanic gay character now as well, who he's hardly on, but it seems like we're starting to make progress in terms of visibility and having these characters on. So it's a great thing.
Cool.
Is there anything you can tell us about what's coming up, or are we going to be seeing Nick for a while on One Life to Live?
I hope so. I mean, I know you're definitely going to be seeing him, over the next couple of months, and there's definitely more to come. It's taken off from where the beginning of where it started. I love that they've got inspired and done all this stuff. I become a teacher at the high school, teach Star in Langston. I think I can tell you that much. And the relationship with Kyle really starts picking up. I mean, it's definitely a real relationship. And like any relationship, we have to negotiate where the X fits in. You know, you'll ask Scott, and he has a different perspective. I mean, I can only speak from Nick's perspective, but it's about making this relationship work and where that goes, and how we all coexist together, you know. And then there's some really big things that happen after that I'm really excited about too.
Are your parents like super proud? Because when you're doing shows, they can't necessarily see them,
Yeah.
but now that you're on TV,
Yeah.
do they all gather around and watch? Or
Oh, totally. I mean, when they air, I get, you know, through Facebook or email, I get a million, and then they all say, when's the next one? When's the next one? Because they know I've shot, you know, 20 more or whatever more. But, you know, I don't really know, I don't pay too much attention to when they air or what's going on until it's about to happen. So, I don't know, just stay tuned and keep watching. But trust me, there's some more coming. So.
Does your dad teach, or does he just coach?
Both, yeah.
So you're kind of, you know, you're playing a teacher like your dad.
Well, I actually play an American history teacher. My dad taught American history, so.
Awesome.
And I oddly enough, you know, interestingly enough, I taught between undergrad and grad school. I taught junior high for a year, so I think that was, you know, when I shot the first day of school in a classroom or whatever in Landview. It was probably the most comfortable day that I had, because I was like, oh, I know how to do this. I know how to stand in front of a classroom of kids and, you know, tell them this is what we're going to do, and, you know, whatever. So
I majored in history, and I also taught junior high for a semester in college, and that actually made me decide to change my major and move away from that.
So
awesome. So you're playing a role in a Sex and the City sequel.
Yep.
And is that shooting right now? I've seen pictures of it shooting right now. Are you shooting right now?
It is. I'm not. I think I do a couple days towards the end of September and then a week in October, but I haven't started shooting yet. But the film has started shooting, and they're shooting around different city locations.
And you can't tell us anything about that.
I can't. I wish I could, because it's going to be good, but it's one of those, if I gave, you know, they definitely said, do not, you know, we had to sign confidentiality things, and it's one of those that if I gave away what I was doing in the movie, it would kind of give away a major plot thing that they want to keep under wraps until the film airs. But I'm definitely doing it. I'm definitely in a very crucial scene of the movie that I'm so excited about. And it's just fun, you know, the thought of being part of something iconic like that and work with those ladies is going to be cool.
So what does the future have in store for Nicholas Rodriguez? Like, do you want to do more TV, films?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I love, of all the things I've done, I'm just having such a blast being on One Life to Live. It's been such a learning experience, working with different actors that come from different backgrounds. It's so challenging, and if anything, I love a challenge. So, you know, I'd love to ride this wave as long as it lasts, and, you know, continue to learn and continue to grow, and hopefully they keep the storyline going. Music is very important to me, obviously. So, you know, I'm trying to put together this one-man show. I'm working with a producer now to hopefully get that going towards the end of the fall, to have like a nightclub act that I can do of my own volition. And yeah, you know, constantly looking for new projects. I love the theater. It's my first love. And just see where things go.
Might we see like an album from you in the future?
Hopefully, that's definitely the goal. You know, I want to start with doing this club act to build some momentum, and want to do a couple of different benefits for some charities that are important to me. But definitely down the road, you know, an album helps get words out. But I'm a big fan of the American Songbook, you know, and the standards and those crooners of the day gone by. So it would be something in that vein.
You and Rod Stewart.
Well, I think our sound is a little bit different, but we definitely love the same repertoire. Yeah, that's for sure. I would have said Tony Bennett, but Rod Stewart's cool too.
Rod Stewart is producing the same thing.
Yeah.
Have you received fan mail from One Life to Live already?
I have. Yeah, it's been incredibly interesting. You know, I received ABC gave me a big package before I was shooting, but before anything even started airing, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before my first episode aired. just from people saying, we read that this is going to happen, we're intrigued. So just that started piquing my interest about what was to come. And, you know, especially with all of the internet stuff and getting emails and my agents getting emails from, and it's all been incredibly positive, you know, which is just overwhelming as far as, you know, how important it is. I got an email just the other day from an ex-priest who's now a gay man, and, you know, telling me his personal story about seeing this and how inspiring it is. So it's just been great, you know, overwhelming, and not just gay men, women, you know, teenagers, all kinds of people. It's been great.
Yeah, I found that with like the Luke and Noah story in As World Turns, it's probably like a 60-40 split between young women and gay men, and 40% gay men. It's like you know, women seem to be drawn to gay male stories. Yeah. And it was the same way on Queer as Folk, actually.
Right.
So, but I'm sure it's very inspiring, because I know for myself growing up, there was never anything like this on television at all.
Right.
There was Stephen Carrington on Dynasty, and the second he met Heather Locklear, he became straight.
Right.
It's over.
Well, so, and just the way it has evolved. You know, I always, in my brain, I think of myself as younger than I am, but just I'm even realizing that, you know, it wasn't really there either. I did this really cool thing a few weeks ago. I did the Harvey Milk School here in New York. They have a young playwrights program, and at the end of the year, they bring in professional actors to read their works. And to be in this room, this full theater full of, you know, teenagers, thinking, wow, I am old enough to be your parent, and you're getting to see me do this. And I'd never really thought of myself in that light, you know. But then I realized the generational difference, that, wow, these kids actually have a forum to sit here and talk about this stuff and write about it, and it's just so cool, you know, so cool to be a part of stuff like that.
Right. Do you have any hidden talents that we might be surprised to find out about?
I hope so. I hope it's a surprise. No, you know, there's a lot of things I like to do. You know, I'm kind of really getting into cooking right now, ever since I bought this house. You know, you'll find me, if I'm not singing and I'm not acting, I love just being in the kitchen and figuring stuff out, you know. Hidden talents, other than that, no, I try not to keep them hidden. You know, I try to share them. So, you know, other than that, I can't do much else, you know, besides play sports.
Do you have anything you want to say to your fans who have supported you so far, and the new fans? It seems like your fan base is growing really quickly now.
Does it? Let's hope, you know. You know, I just have to say the whole thing, from the bottom of my soul, is truly a gift. The entire experience, you know. So often as an actor, you take a job because you need a job, you know, and I never would have believed that something like this would come along for me and to love it so much, you know, and for the writers and everybody to just give me this opportunity to explore it and to be collaborative, you know, and for the fans to support it, it encourages them to go further with it, you know. So it's been such a blessing and such an eye-opening experience, and I'm so thrilled about the stuff that we've already shot, you know, that's going to be coming in September and October, and so thrilled about the stuff that we're shooting in the next couple weeks, that I know it's going to really be pushing the envelope of what people expect, and, you know, just stay on board with us, and we promise to tell the truth and you know, be honest about it.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, Nick. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.